This is a story that defies all logic. It's a case where every witness, every piece of evidence, and every camera seems to agree on one impossible fact. It's the story of Rachel Moore, a 23-year-old woman who went to a party and, according to everyone there, never left. On the night of May 21, 2017, Rachel Moore was in a great mood. She was in Columbus, Ohio, heading to a small get-together at an apartment with two of her closest friends. It wasn't a wild party, just about a dozen people, all friends or friends of friends. Rachel was sober when she arrived just after 10:30 p.m. Earlier that evening, she had texted her sister, letting her know she'd be home late. It was a completely normal night. That message would be the last confirmed communication anyone ever received from her. Inside the apartment, the atmosphere was casual and friendly. Witnesses later recalled that Rachel spent most of her time in the living room, chatting with people she knew. There were no arguments, no drama, nothing that seemed out of the ordinary. She was just enjoying herself, surrounded by familiar faces. But then, things took a strange turn. Around 12:40 a.m., one of Rachel's friends looked around and realized she wasn't in the living room anymore. At first, nobody panicked. It was a small apartment. They figured she was in the bathroom, or maybe stepped out onto the balcony for some fresh air, or was talking to someone in another room. It was a logical assumption. As the minutes ticked by, however, that casual assumption began to dissolve into a feeling of unease. Something just felt wrong. One of the friends noticed Rachel's coat was still draped over the back of the couch. Her bag was still sitting right where she had left it, and most telling of all, her phone was still plugged into the wall, charging. She hadn't taken a single one of her belongings. Why would she leave without her coat, her bag, and especially her phone? Her friends started a small search. They checked the bathroom, empty. They looked in the bedroom and the kitchen, nothing. They walked down the hallway calling her name, silence. They even went outside to check the front of the building, thinking maybe she'd stepped out for a moment. But there was no sign of her anywhere. The building had security cameras. When the footage was later reviewed, it clearly showed Rachel entering the building with her friends earlier that night. But that's where the trail stopped. There was no footage of her ever leaving. Not through the front door, not through the back, not through any exit. It was as if she had walked into that apartment and simply vanished into thin air. By 2:00 a.m., the party was winding down. The remaining guests started to leave. By this point, most people had settled on a different, more comforting explanation. They assumed Rachel must have left quietly with someone else, maybe someone they didn't know well. Perhaps she had made a new friend and decided to leave without a big farewell. In a group of a dozen people, it was easy to believe that someone else must have seen her go. Because of this collective, unspoken assumption, no one called the police that night. Everyone went home believing Rachel was safe, just somewhere else. It wasn't until the next afternoon, when Rachel still hadn't returned home or answered any calls, that the alarm was truly raised. She was officially reported missing. The police immediately began their investigation, starting with the people who saw her last, the guests from the party. They interviewed every single person who was there, and as they collected statements, a chilling pattern emerged. It wasn't the contradictions in their stories that stood out, but the stunning consistency. One by one, each witness told the police the same exact thing. She never left. No one saw her walk out the door. No one remembered her saying goodbye. No one saw her leave with a stranger or a friend. There was no fight, no sudden departure, just a quiet, inexplicable absence. It was a statement that made no sense. How could someone be gone if they never left? The search for Rachel Moore intensified. For 7 agonizing days, her family, friends, and law enforcement searched, holding on to hope. And then, a week after she disappeared, that hope was shattered. Rachel's body was found. But the location of the discovery only made the mystery deeper and more confusing. She was found inside a vacant apartment unit across town. This apartment had no connection to the party, to Rachel, or to anyone she knew. To get inside, you would need a key or a specific building code. It was in a part of town that was in the complete opposite direction of her own home. There was absolutely no reason for her to be there. Her friends and family confirmed she knew no one in that building. Police scoured her phone records and social media, but found no messages, no calls, no location history that could link her to that address. This is where the case moves from mysterious to seemingly impossible. Investigators pulled all the data from Rachel's phone, which had been left behind at the party. The data showed that the phone had never traveled to the area where her body was discovered. In fact, her phone went offline shortly after midnight, while it was still physically inside the party apartment, charging against the wall. When police recovered it, it was exactly where her friends had last seen it, unmoved. So, let's recap the impossible facts. Rachel is at a party. She's seen by a dozen people. Then, she's not. Her coat, bag, and phone are all left behind. Security cameras show her entering the building, but never leaving. Every single witness insists she never walked out the door. Her phone data confirms her phone never left the party. Yet, she is found a week later, miles away, in a locked, vacant apartment she had no reason to be in. How does a person leave a party without being seen by anyone? How do they bypass security cameras in the process? How do they travel across town without their phone, without their belongings, and end up in a secured, unfamiliar location? The police were stumped. They had no witnesses who could place her outside the apartment, no footage to show her exit, and no forensic trail to explain her journey. The official cause of death was never released to the public, leaving even more questions in its wake. But the central mystery, the one that haunts investigators and her loved ones to this day, remains the same. Rachel Moore didn't disappear on a dark street. She didn't vanish on her way home. According to every single person who was there, she never left the party at all. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as compelling as I did, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into unexplained mysteries.